there are a couple of presentations that we're going to make. I'm going to set the tone by a set of introductory comments about the market, and then Soumya is going to share her quick perspectives on the industry, and then we shall go through a set of questions with the panel that we have here. I'll initiate a few questions, and I would request all of you to also kind of prepare yourself and pose some intriguing questions to this interesting panel. So let's get started with the context. People ask me this question whenever I stand up to present. People expect that I'll present some new numbers. I'm going to disappoint you. I'm not going to present any new numbers because fundamentally a lot has not changed about the market at the macro level. There are a few big changes that we'll talk about, but otherwise it's a little bit more of the same, but we've gone a little deeper into to find out what's really changed at the operating level. So the market will be around 15 billion, growing at broadly 20%. Products, which is the more visible part of the market, and assets, where you see many luxury cars on the roads that you saw several years ago, those are clearly driving the growth. Services has been a little patchy. There is enough latent demand in the market. So the more stores you open, the more consumers you reach, and the more the market grows. So a lot of growth actually comes from new store opening, not necessarily from same store sales growth. There are enough rich people in the market. There is awareness and exposure, and there is what is called as the Gini coefficient, which is an indicator of the inequality of income distribution. So when we say that the GDP per capita grows by 6%, does every person become 6% richer every year? No, some become more richer than others. So India is an unequal market. So that inequality coefficient is increasing a little bit, not a whole lot, and that does contribute. From a social point of view, it's probably not as desirable, but when it comes to luxury spending, you have more money in the hands of rich people, they'll spend it more. I guess you just had a session on e-retail, and that's becoming an interesting option for people as well. Look at it whichever way. There is a huge market beyond the metros. So if you look at total retail market potential value, 60% of the value lies in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and I've spoken earlier about what's the market for luxury products as well. Just to give you a quick snapshot of what has happened in the last 1 year, about 50 more luxury outlets have got added. So you see about 32 luxury product stores got added, and about 18 luxury car showrooms got added. Out of the 32, and 3 brands entered and 1 brand exited, so probably net a couple of brands got added. Mumbai and Delhi continue to lead the pack in terms of luxury store additions, so 12 and 11 respectively, and 9 stores beyond Mumbai and Delhi. The luxury car showrooms actually show you a very interesting perspective. 15 out of 18 showrooms got added in cities beyond Mumbai and Delhi. And if you look at the quantum of purchase that a luxury car represents, you can buy many more handbags at the price of one luxury car. So it does tell you that there is a lot more wealth in the hinterland than we choose to acknowledge. So Pune, Surat, Ludhiana are some of your interesting cities. The base has been small, and therefore most product and car companies have grown in high double digits. The numbers that you see here are not revenues of the companies, they are an index. So if you took 2010 as the index, there's an example of an Indian luxury fashion house which has grown at 34% in the last 3 years. A major Indian luxury hotel grown at 15%, and luxury car brand growing at 30%. And I think the car growth is true for almost all brands: Mercedes, Audi, BMW. All of them have more or less grown at this rate. We also spoke to some industry CEOs just to get a sense of how has the downturn impacted them, and I presume that's a question on your mind, which we should ask the panel as well. Globally, luxury is somewhat immune to a downturn, simply because the luxury products do form a very small percentage of a wealthy person's spend. So it doesn't really matter whether you buy 1 extra suit or 1 extra watch when you're a billionaire. And in India also, the downturn does not seem to have had a major impact on the market. People have become more cautious, but it's not as if the growth rate has dramatically slowed down. But yes, high import duties continue to be an issue. The rupee devaluation means that an imported product becomes 20% more expensive than what it was a year ago. So that does pose a challenge. In services, fine dining has been small, but there are a lot of interesting restaurants coming up. Luxury hotel rooms has been a little stunted. Global demand slowdown and overseas visitors traveling to India does have an impact on them. And interest rates, therefore, kind of put a little bit of wet blanket on how many rooms they want to add. Luxury cars seem to have grown well, but the high interest rates, and if there is a slower demand growth, they would worry about it. Real estate has actually suffered, and real estate, the luxury homes sales have actually stagnated a little bit. What has also happened is that the Indian play in luxury is now twofold. You can see two different patterns emerging in the market clearly. So there are at least three groups, and there could be a fourth, I think, but broadly 2-3 groups which have become aggregators of brands, so to say. And international brands are now kind of talking to these people, and each of them have built a decent portfolio of brands, which allows them to kind of share their overheads, share media expenses, share management bandwidth, get better deals with real estate firms. So these are kind of emerging as luxury houses, so to say. And on the other hand, of course, there are enough Indian luxury brands that you see. Hotels has always been there, but you have in apparel, there are enough designers that you have, there are enough jewelry brands. So there is a small but clear Indian luxury play that is emerging in this market. Some of it was also helped by the fact that till now, FDI, there was a constraint on that. So companies had to tie up with somebody, and therefore that made it actually helped some of these companies. Some of the Indian brands, what one can take away from them, all of them have, it's not that they've had it easy. Patience and persistence has actually paid off. If you speak to any one of them, they will tell you that there is hope in the market, but you need to be patient, stay invested. All of them have also found that focus on the product quality and experience actually helps immensely. And so does building consumer awareness. In terms of the challenges that the market has faced, there were 5 big challenges: FDI, reaching the consumer, duties, real estate, and talent. On the remaining 4, nothing much has been done. So things remain as it is. From the time I first studied the luxury market in 2007, nothing has moved on those. On the first one, a little bit has moved, which is that now they've taken away the restriction on foreign direct investment, but there's a local sourcing clause which has, I think, mixed reactions. On one hand, people feel that, is there really a good quality product that we can actually source? There is no doubt that raw material has been sourced from India for several years. So Christian Louboutin, I think once in one of these forums, he said that he used to come to India specifically to source embroidered cloth. And there are enough people who source leather and kind of stuff. So raw materials have been sourced. Whether they'll source finished products from the country remains to be seen. Whether it will be 30% remains to be seen. But if it does, it will also serve as a fillip to the Indian luxury brands. When you have that kind of products and artisanship being demonstrated, it helps building an Indian brand if you have to. Rest, I would say micro-segmentation is still nascent. People are still going after the same old bunch of consumers that they know, trying to convert the new consumer, the consumer who has the money but doesn't have the mindset to buy. I think a lot less has been done than what could have been done. Duties continue. Real estate, we still don't have enough spaces, so a new brand wanting to open stores, they don't really have too many options, and the options that they have do turn out to be expensive. And talent, it is an issue. We've been asked this question several times, saying that, can India develop luxury brands? And I give you some examples of brands that are already what can be called luxury in India. But if you look at China, there are at least many luxury brands which are what one can call as true luxury are emerging there. There's Shangxia, which is a furniture apparel brand. There's Tiger Fashion. There's Wines and Spirits brand. Each of them are kind of rooted in ethnic Chinese heritage and legacy. Many of them have had some interest from LVMH or Hermes or some of those. They do a lot of customization, and their products are pretty appealing to the Chinese population. And they do have a part of their, what I would say, portfolio, which is really, really high end. So products should suit local tastes. That's where a domestic luxury brand can succeed. You have to make sure that it is clear. I mean, if you want to make it exclusive, that don't compromise on that. You will grow slowly, but at least you will maintain your positioning. And finally, focus on customer experience. What does one need to do to succeed in the Indian market? I think some of this might not be new to you, but believe in the market. You can say, well, since I'm not seeing money now, what other option do I have but to believe in the long term? But yes, patience and persistence does pay. So believe in the market. The fundamentals cannot go wrong. Eventually people will spend money. The question is, as and when the product appeals to the customer, as and when the price is right, as and when the experience is right, I think people will definitely spend. There is enough latent demand. I think several studies have shown that. Enhancing the penetration. I mean, going close to the consumer, I think there is no option. It is a slightly unaware consumer. You have to take the brand close to the consumer. Let the consumer come in, experience the brand, let them understand why a luxury brand charges so much. A luxury brand is not something which, sells something at a high price. If 90% of the price is still material cost, it's not a luxury brand. A luxury brand is something with the brand premium is significantly high. So there are a whole host of Indian jewelers who sell really high price pieces, but they're not all luxury brands. So targeting new catchments in tier 1 towns, we have to move beyond South Bombay and South Delhi. There is a lot of wealth beyond these catchments in the tier 1 towns. And we have to go to tier 2 cities as well. And we strongly believe that recruiting new customers who have the money but not the mindset is actually, they're going to be our future customers of tomorrow. Customization and education and getting people to experience the brand is good. From that point of view, the sales, many luxury brands have gone on sale, and many people have heard saying, well, these brands seem to be selling only when there is a sale. It's not bad, because somebody who buys a product, one day will buy it at 70% price, and then one day at full prices. And finally, it is still a business where your economics can go horribly wrong if you are not frugal, if you're not careful, if your overheads tend to overshadow the business, if the shape of your P&L is not right, you can be dead. If any, immune to the slowdown? Do you see the FDI deregulation as a big boost to the industry? Is local sourcing a big constraint? And finally, tapping luxury consumers, what has worked, what hasn't. But before we do that, Soumya, can I invite you to make your presentation? Thank you.
I'm Soumya from Luxury Fact. There might be some overlaps between mine and Lesh's presentations, but I'll move through it quickly. I'm going to just explain a few reasons why luxury, what makes luxury brands tick and what doesn't. Just a quick glimpse, although he has already given the numbers, but still. Indian luxury market projected to reach USD 14.72 billion in 2015. Market growth rate is over 20% per annum, which is very positive for everybody in the industry. India has 7,730 ultra high net worth individuals, of which 109 are billionaires. But despite so much of money, brands are still not able to make inroads as much as is. Murjani says imbalance between franchisors and franchises is one of the biggest challenges for luxury retail in India. Second reason, which is probably the biggest reason, is lack of luxury retail space, high import duties, and Indians buying abroad. DLF Brands is the latest example, which has again exited the luxury business. For them, size the brand house retail yet, but they have exited the market because it did not suit them. Where brands might fail is long gestation periods and need of massive investment. Versace recently
treated them very well. They understand all about the brands. They tell him, Papa, you need to be wearing this because we want you to be dressed well in front of our friends. So that's the new customer which is turning up in large numbers, and he is buying on the net. Mind you, even in terms of luxury, he's buying on the net. So that's one new category which I have observed.
Fantastic. That's very, very interesting. And I guess what I liked about Pradeep's model was, instead of you're trying to carry a bag from the store, the van is coming to you. So the whole brand is coming.
We are doing something similar what Pradeep was sharing. We have an online catalog built into the boutiques. So if you're gifting, you come into the store, you see what you like, but because it's a gift, you can make sure that you just order it online from the boutique itself, it gets sent. We also carry a much higher catalog on the online application versus the store, which helps us plan our stock efficiency much higher. The SKUs, which are slow sellers, are on the online catalog versus as physical stocks in the boutique. So it's a nice integration across models to basically give a better consumer experience, because I do agree for premium and aspirational products, you need certain amount of touch and feel, trying it out, though there's a lot of technology which is helping us even overcome that in terms of touching and making sure you get a feel. But till now, it's a good mix and match to make sure we leverage on the benefits of online, which is the flexibility, as everybody was saying, to make sure it gets in, as well as the experience of getting into the boutique. So, great future for both across.
Good, thank you. I'm sure all of you, ladies and gentlemen, have some questions that you'd like to ask the panel. So, if there are any questions, we are happy to take.
I'm from the brand Baggett, and I feel a kind of product is doing very well, but it's very value for money kinds. I would like to expand it to the customers who are looking out for more premium stuff, but I feel we are already in that, Baggett is for
appeal to the next higher level of...
Yeah, so I don't think, if you go any higher, we'll touch the Zaras and that kind of price bracket where they would prefer to buy an international brand than not an Indian brand for that same amount of money.
So I will, Pradeep, before you kind of answer that question, I have a slight counter question for you. In India, the shape of the pyramid is like this. The lower you go, the bigger market you get, okay? You wanting to go higher. It's not yet proven that brands in the higher space are necessarily making more money. So if you want to do that, you're most welcome. But be conscious that you will be vacating a larger market space if you do that. Pradeep.
Completely agree with Dilesh. Yes, of course. The numbers will taper as you go up. But
I aspire to be like Topshop in Oxford Street. If you've seen there, it's right opposite. And they have bags for the college girl as well as, bags for the higher leather kind looking, which are more premiumly priced.
It's very difficult to change a brand perception, the brand chromosome, as we call it. Instead of trying to take it up and confusing the customer, let that remain. Don't touch an existing cash cow. Let that remain.
You don't have the money to finance and market two brands.
You don't need too much money to make the product and make the logistics and the distribution. That is already in place. All you need to do is just create another brand. You could in your own store, you could create a special premium area which sells that brand. So you don't have to spend too much money into it. But call it something else. You can't, how much ever you glorify a particular brand, you can't, it's very difficult to take it up. It's very easy to take it down. It's very, very difficult to defy gravity.
This does call for a deeper introspection. I suggest you catch Pradeep after this separately. The gentleman here, you had a question.
But tell me how profitable it is, to the cost which is there. Is it limited to an area? Okay, the service which you're offering. And how profitable is it to your company?
Tell me the cost. It is only metro specific. So we are only doing it in Bombay, Delhi first, and we'll do it in the other two metros later. So right now it's Bombay, Delhi. Okay, what do I have to do? Do I have to spend 1 rupee on merchandise, on stocks? No. I'm pooling into my existing stocks. The only thing that I have to do is, the cost is a van and some diesel. I know diesel prices are going up, but that's it. That's it. What manpower is tapped from the store. The stock is from the stocks that I hold. I don't have to spend anything. And look at how many times. What can I offer to the client? What I can offer to the client is not just a product. It's an ego massage. The cost of doing that is huge.
And what has been the response actually? Are you seeing?
Okay, we've done trial runs. Fabulous, fantastic. We've not yet advertised. Okay, we're launching it in end of December, full-fledged. Come on, keep yourself, put yourself in the client's shoes. You're a traveler, you're on transit, you're a working man, you have compulsions, you want your family members also to see what you're buying, you have a traffic issue, it's raining in Bombay, it's hot in Delhi, I can't travel, my guests are coming tonight for dinner. You have all those compulsions. Here you call them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 o'clock in the night, it's 24 hours. 7 o'clock in the morning you want the van comes.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a great concept which you have.
The true luxury is to have time, and most luxury consumers, they don't have time. So they do have money, but they don't have time. They don't want to take the headache of kind of browsing. Shopping is painful. Okay, it's not always enjoyable. So it is, and India, one of the advantages that we have is the service that we are able to provide. If you add that with the luxury product, you can make the experience truly fantastic. Globally, luxury brands provide service, but that service comes at a pretty expensive cost.
My question is to the panel. I have two questions I would like to put on to the panel. One is, can you tell me some of the typical characteristics or maybe the traits of a consumer or a luxury consumer when he's actually making a purchase? That is one thing. Secondly, if a luxury consumer would prefer to buy a luxury product from a multi-brand boutique, or will he be more interested in buying it from a single brand boutique? Maybe.
Okay, so maybe Manish, you want to take that question?
I mean, okay, single brand and multi-brand is probably a bit industry specific and in terms of stage of life of brand. But for like all individuals, I would want to get a choice which is strong enough in front of me. So in an ideal situation, I would want 15 single brand boutiques, each having enough depth of assortment. And therefore the concept of a luxury mall or a Palladium kind of a place or an Emporio kind of a place would work in an ideal scenario. However, because there are retail issues, because costs are high, and therefore a multi-brand kind of a concept would evolve out of that. But as a customer, I think everybody would prefer to have a nice assortment. That is on the first part. And on the second part, like I previously also said, that in terms of the mindset, I think a lot of people have some understanding of the brand. So when they walk into a store, they expect you to tell them more. They expect you to tell them why this brand is what it is, why should a product be so expensive. Plus there are functional things like, emotional things like he should feel happy, he should feel being massaged, he should feel being taken care of. And the third part is that if there is an after sales issue or a quality issue, then it falls apart. So yes, he is willing to pay you a premium for a price, but he wants top-notch quality on that kind of thing.
See, I since being into retail myself, my experience is India has got, or maybe any city has got a very niche client of luxury product buyers. And we have also seen that when a consumer is actually buying a product, maybe he has not come to buy a luxury product, and it is very difficult in India to understand who has actually got how much money. So you see that the consumer may be looking at a product and end up into buying maybe a very high-priced item. So in this kind of a scenario, maybe the multi-brand store where they're stocking maybe items from a various price point and various brand works out to be better, or because anyway he is not very much aware about the brand. He's not aware about the price point. It is more of an aspiration which builds up when he's actually selecting a product, and then suddenly he is actually going into buying into luxury.
So let me address that. You're right. What a multi-brand outlet does, it caters to a variety seeker. So there is a variety seeker who wants to see all brands together because he or she is not aware. They want to see everything before they buy. So multi-brand outlet caters to that kind of an audience. An exclusive brand outlet, EBO, typically caters to an outlet for a consumer who has at least bought into the brand a little bit. So he or she knows there's a brand. And therefore they go in. From a brand point of view, an EBO allows you to offer a breadth as well as depth, as well as an experience which is difficult to offer in an MBO. So a brand will always want to make the choice. You get too much exposure in an MBO, the brand sometimes feels that they are losing their identity. So they want enough balance between MBOs. In a market like India, you're right. My personal opinion is also we need to have more MBOs across categories. So you need for example, in personal care, an MBO like Sephora would make immense sense, where you have a wide variety of brands available at one place. An MBO like The Collective makes sense for menswear. So there is a need for that to appeal to the variety seeker, and then some of them will migrate into brand seekers, and then they'll go into the EBOs. I saw somebody wanted to have a question on that side. Yes, madam.
You had expansion plans. You spoke about the fact that you have expansion plans till 2015 and getting into e-commerce. My question is, how difficult is it for you to find the right talent in the market to work with you? I'm not talking about people who are front-ending your store or just your store managers, but the leadership team that works with you to, run this company and expand it to a very large scale. So do you find it difficult to find the right talent in the market? People with the right attitude, that's also been mentioned before, because Indians also look at the value, when they're spending $100 on an outfit. So has that been a challenge for you since you're running the organization and expanding it?
I completely agree with you. Yes, that challenge remains. But then what came first, the chicken or the egg? You make your goal post and you work towards it. You find like-minded people, you train them, you do your proper orientations, and ultimately it all falls into place. If you decided that this is the goal post and you have to hit the goal inside at any cost, you'll find a way. So yes, it is not so easy because it's a new area, it's a new arena. Obviously, there are no set benchmarks. So it's part of the journey.
Manishi, I'd like you to respond to this as well. How easy or difficult has it been for DFS or LVMH?
I think I would largely agree with Pradeep. And to my mind, the front end is a more difficult part because there are complexities that they have to look, behave, and relate to the customer in front of you. But if you look at back end and the leadership part of it, it's not so much sector specific. It's not so much luxury specific. I mean, a good manager who has a good sense of the ground, who understands and the basic model by which you solve a business problem, to my mind is very much similar in a FMCG environment or in a retail environment or in a luxury environment. So fundamentally, there is a bigger challenge which is on the front end and lesser challenge on the back end part of it, because I would believe a good manager from any background fits in. I mean, it probably takes time, maybe 3 months, 6 months or 12 months or whatever it takes to train him on the specifics of your industry, but it's doable. It's not so much of an issue for me.
I'll throw it to Abhay, but before that, let me just tell you that there are more number of, I get a fair number of people reaching out to me saying, I want to work in the luxury industry, and many of them come with very specific brands saying, I want to work with Jimmy Choo, and somebody saying, I want to work with only Dior. And so there seems to be, the industry has a lot of aspirational appeal. A whole bunch of people wanting to work in the industry, and I'm sure they will be willing to work even if you paid them half of what FMCG would pay them. But I'd like Abhay to respond to that in terms of the attraction of the industry versus the economics or the value proposition that the industry has to new employees.
Over 600 respondents. One of the categories for the respondents were brand owners, where the brands could have either come into India or are waiting for certain, let's say, statutory clearances. So the question thrown to them was that what happens to my operations guy? What does he do after he's opened 3 Gucci stores? He just remains operations head. Where does he move in the value chain? Does he ever become a brand manager? So the answer to that question was that, well, he needs to qualify in luxury brand management. But there's no luxury school in India which is offering that program. So what do? So as a company, Luxury Connect has taken that challenge and we brought SDA Bakoni to India and we're conducting luxury brand management programs. The second challenge is the front end, which is customer experience. Now, no school in the world teaches luxury customer experience. It is an inborn talent. And as Pradeep said, every company has to decide its own formula, its own track in terms of how do you want to train the front end staff. But the survey went deeper into finding out with category 4, which are the brand owners, and category 1, people like me controlling luxury in India. What do we do for the training? So which brand is perceived to give the best customer experience? What threw up worldwide is Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton is perceived to give the best customer experience. So Luxury Connect tied up with the training director of Louis Vuitton to come and conduct these programs in India. So the last 6 months we conducted 3 programs already. And today we have, likes of a Tommy Hilfiger or Marks & Spencer wanting to raise their service standards to a luxury brand against a Ferrari or maybe even a Zoya or maybe even a Taj Hospitality which is participating in these programs. I have now been invited by Mahindra tomorrow to conduct a special program for the 200 dealers. So the fact remains that there is no excuse for training. There has to be the mindset by the promoters to invest on training. And as Pradeep said, the goal has already been set. And this is just a minor challenge which needs to be met.
Okay, great. I think we have run out of time. I'm pretty sure I'll get a reminder from the organizers to wind up this session. Anybody there who can tell me whether we have more time or should we wind down? Okay, great. So thank you very much. I'm sure all of you have more questions. The panel is going to be around for you to talk individually and clarify your questions and doubts. Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful audience.